Hello, everybody, and welcome to the evening of day 3 of Let's Make a Sourdough Starter. I'm about to look at my sourdough starter, and we're going to do a feeding tonight. So get your things ready and let's go take a look. So here we can see we've got the bubbles, we've got some nice activity happening. So it's coming along. So we're ready to feed it. So what we need to do is discard half, keeping about 60 grams. And then we're going to feed 40 grams of flour and 20 grams of water, 20 grams of juice. So let's go ahead and do that. And there are many ways to do this, but the way I think is the easiest is giving your starter a really good mix and then taking a second clean jar, placing it on your scale, tearing your scale, and removing 60 grams from the current jar into the new clean jar. Another way to feed your starter is to figure out how much your glass jar with the starter weighs and subtract the weight of our jar. That way we know exactly how much starter we have and we could start removing half of it. In this case, we would remove 60 grams. Feeding your starter this way only requires one jar. However, it is much messier, and I find it significantly easier to have 2 jars. And now you're probably wondering, well, why do I need to discard half? What does it make a difference? Well, here's a visual that can show you exactly what is happening. These are not real bacteria and yeast. It's just a little digital example, but you can see how the microorganisms multiply. And if we don't discard half, what will happen is we will need significantly more food, an exponential amount more food. So therefore, we discard half in order to get rid of some of the microorganisms so that we don't have to feed them quite as much to keep them healthy and vital and active. It's kind of like having more people in the family to feed. If you only have enough food for 2 people, the rest of the people will starve. So it's the exact same thing here. So if you choose not to discard, you will have to give an exponential amount more food in order to keep your starter healthy and active. So let's go ahead and feed our starter. So here you can see I'm going to use the method where I remove some of the starter, and look how messy it is. It's easy to do, but very messy. And it takes a little more time, I find, than just taking a brand new clean jar. So we need to discard and leave only about 60 grams. So we're slowly decreasing the amount of starter and increasing the amount of food as the microorganisms multiply. At this point in the game, you don't want to be using the discard as you're still trying to get the correct balance of the healthy bacteria. So the best way to explain what I mean by that is to explain what's happening in the jar. Basically, when you mix the flour and water, the microorganisms that are naturally present on the flour grains proliferate, and they start to break down starches and sugars from the flour in order to obtain their energy. And as a result, carbon dioxide gas is released. Carbon dioxide is vital to getting the bread to rise. This process is called fermentation. And what's happening is there's a fight for dominance happening between the different types of bacteria that are naturally present on the flour grains. So the good bacteria are the ones that we actually want to be within our sourdough starter. And these are the lactic acid bacteria, and they thrive in acidic environments. The other bacteria that are present, we often call the bad bacteria, and this dies in an acidic environment, which is a big reason why we add the pineapple juice for the first 4 days in order to help the lactic acid bacteria get the boost they need to win the fight. And when the microorganisms are fighting for dominance, a really bad smell can occur, but give it time and keep feeding it. Don't give up. It only takes about 3 to 5 days for the correct balance of bacteria to form, even if you're not using pineapple juice. With time, your starter will gain a lovely yeasty sweet smell. So around day 4, the starter is naturally more acidic and the lactic acid bacteria wins anyway. The correct balance of bacteria is established and you're able to find your starter has a nice, sweet, yeasty smell. Pineapple juice simply kickstarts this process, so that's why I like to use it. I do not like that yucky smell, and I don't want to waste flour. I want to give the lactic acid bacteria all the help it can get. So now we're going to feed our starter, and we're going to feed it in a ratio of 2 to 2 to 3. 2 parts of liquid to 2 parts of flour to 3 parts of starter. And you may be wondering, why not a 1 to 1 to 1? And the reason I do this is because the bacteria and yeast are still building up their population. And because they grow exponentially, and because it's very cold here, I want to give them every bit of chance to get going that I can. So I'm going to leave a little bit more microorganisms for this first feeding. And as the yeast begins to flourish, then I will begin to increase the feed even more, and the ratio will get even greater. And we'll see that in the future feedings. So now that we've added our 40 grams of liquid and our 40 grams of flour to our 60 grams of starter, we want to give our starter a really good mix until you notice that it's well combined, and it will pass the jiggle test where you hold your jar, shake it a little, it'll have a little jiggle, and you'll know it's ready to go. And now finally, you just need to scrape down the sides. And the best way is to use a spatula. So just clean the sides so that you'll be able to see how much your starter has risen. And once you're finished, remember to smell your starter. You want to smell it when you first open it up and before you cover it up. This way you can tell when the fermentation is starting to happen. You'll be able to smell the yeasty smell and you'll be very excited. And remember, if you did not use pineapple juice, you may have a really bad smell at this point. And that's because the bacteria are having that battle we talked about. So don't worry and don't throw it out yet. Just keep at it and it will come. So after you've covered your starter back up, remember to move your elastic as you now have a little bit more starter than you did before. So just raise it back up to the new level. And now just snuggle your starters back up and we'll see you again in the morning. And please let us know how your starter's rising on day 3. And I'd love it if you shared a picture with us in the comments. And please don't worry if your starter's not growing that much yet, or it's not showing signs of activity yet. You still have time and everyone's environments are different. However, if you don't see any signs of activity at all at this point, take a look at my video on how to achieve success, and hopefully this will help you. I sure hope you're enjoying making a sourdough starter with me, and if you are, please take a moment to add a rating onto the recipe on my website, as it helps Google recognize the recipe and my website, and it will show it to more people. This will help my website grow, and it will allow me to do more recipes for you. I'd also really greatly appreciate it if you'd head to my Pinterest page, Turmeric Me Crazy on Pinterest. I have many different things there, and of course, the Easy Sourdough series. So please visit and pin as many of my recipes as you'd like. Thank you so much. We'll check on our starters again in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.